Venezuela is in the news. It's in January 2026, and January 3rd, we really got interested when the president from Venezuela ended up in the United States. As we here at Tab Media Group started thinking about the country of Venezuela and the people of Venezuela, we knew we had some friends nearby. So we've invited them in to talk about Venezuela, give you a little bit more inside scoop on the country and the people. I'm Jennifer Rash with Tab Media Group, and this is a special report on Venezuela. Today joining us, Dr. Pat Terry and Angel Torres. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so let's see. Dr. Terry spent 12 years in Venezuela as a missionary and nutritionist, community nutritionist. And Angel was born in Venezuela and was there until 1999 when he came to Birmingham, Alabama to study at Stanford University. Dr. Terry also 30 years at Stanford University in nutrition and dietetics. And they are both members of Dawson's Family of Faith in Homewood, Alabama. So lots of connections, Venezuela, Birmingham, Stanford, and Dawson. Both believers, both working in missions. Angel is a real estate agent here in the area and has a background in business and theology. His wife is on staff at Dawson. Wow, and Pat is married to Dr. Bob Terry, who is the editor emeritus of the Alabama Baptist Inc. Tab Media Group. My predecessor. So wow, lots of circles. Okay, for context, that's who we're talking with. So let's dive in on Venezuela. Let's start with you, Angel. You were born there.
Yes.
Just give us your picture of what is Venezuela to you. Who are the Venezuelan people?
Wow, that's a very wide open question. So I think the biggest way to get people that may just not be familiar or with Venezuela at all, just kind of hearing it now, they're seeing it all on the news. I would say that a region with people with very diverse background in terms of culture, and that is due to how it was colonized, really, and also the influences that happened in Venezuela through the last 100 years, given the heavy influx of foreigners into Venezuela because of the oil boom. Again, we're talking about 100 years ago. People, when that happened, we had people from the United States, from Japan, from Germany, from Italy. I mean, we had an influx of people from all over the world. And at that time, Venezuela was growing, and the economy, it was attracting a lot of people, and we even had immigrants from, like I said, from Italy, from the Middle East, and so it's a huge melting pot with a lot of influences, and so that's that. In terms of the geography, it's probably one of the most, paradise-like places on earth.
Paradise. I've heard Dr. Terry talk about that too.
Really?
Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize, and I didn't realize until I step out. You know, really, when you're there, you just take it for granted, but you step out and you realize just to be able to have so much in the area. So It is in South America. It is on the northern side of South America. So if you go down through Central America, you get Panama and then Colombia on the south, and then you go up north a little bit from there, and that's where Venezuela sits, right on the coast of the Caribbean. So for geography, and then it's at the very tip of where the Andes start, the Andes Mountains.
Okay, yes.
And then, so really, in one day, you could be, the morning you could spend it on freezing temperature with snow, and then that afternoon you can have your toes on the warm water and watch the sunset. And I know I actually did it once. Down there when I was a teenager, and we were traveling, and you can actually do that because the size of it is about a little bit bigger than Texas. So you can kind of picture that. So anyway, that's the geography. It's just really blessed. I mean, it's just amazing. And then in terms of natural resources too, that really created just a combination of again, just so many alternatives for people, but because of the way that like me growing up over there, I remember being in a classroom, and there would be people that were Asian, Middle East, people from different places, and that was their families have immigrated to Venezuela seeking out those resources and those things because the wars, especially World War II and so on. So we grew up just growing around that being very natural, and so there is layer prejudice in terms of color of skin, or like what appearance. There is prejudice in terms of social status and education, and how much money people have or not. Unfortunately, that's true in most places where they're not prejudiced on appearance, or there's still that social status thing. But really, other than that, everybody just treats everybody the same. And so anyway, I could talk about it for
I
4
love
hours.
that. I love it. Well, Pat, during your 12 years there, what did you experience? Was that similar to what you experienced?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons I loved it so much, to watch. Actually, I produced 2 Venezuelans. My 2 children were born in Venezuela. And so they had to choose when they were 18 which passport to give up. So.
Wow.
But I just loved watching them in their school, and when they would come home and talk, it was no difference. And everybody was really treated so equally. And but I just really was amazed. I didn't really know anything about Venezuela before we went. But the beauty is just incredible. And I remember we lived in Caracas, and so it was like perfect springtime. It's really, the temperature depends on the altitude. So Caracas is up about 3,000 feet, something like that. And it's in a valley. And so you can also go up to the Avila, which is the big mountains between Caracas and the ocean, and there was a teleférico that you could go up and be in the really cool air up there. But I just got so used to it being so beautiful that I didn't appreciate it. I think that was what you were talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, right now what we're hearing in the news and we're watching, it doesn't sound pretty. So help us understand that difference of what's being explained to us, and then how that fit into the picture.
It's difficult to get into without discussing, getting in the weeds of political. But really, what and the Bible talks about this. Anytime you give one particular person too much power, it's going to corrupt.
Right.
And we had a change in 1999, 1998. Chavez was elected. He won by a majority. And came into power, but unfortunately with that came a lot of ideas of socialisms and communism that kind of really started to tarnish what was happening. And so the economic side, the point was that everything was going to be taken away from the private sector into being handled by the government. And the corruption of not just one person, but many people started eroding that. And the economy, it got to a point where it was just absolutely out of control. I'm talking about currency exchange to foreign investors, to everything. And it was a downhill spiral that just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it continued to get worse. I'm talking
what
about,
time frame is this?
This is back in 1999.
So
and right
about the time
that
you
I
were
moved
leaving,
here,
right?
Every time, and it was really shocking, because every time I go back, when I was on break, and I go back to Venezuela, I'll be learning about these atrocities that kept happening, and people kept voting for different changes, and I was like, wait a minute, so, and it was so different every time, and I could see it. Like you see on almost like a frozen frame. Every time I go back, I'm like, wait, but where you mean this change? Oh yeah, that's different now. And it was very And so that all the way through when Chavez died in 2013, and things were bad then. Then Maduro came in. He was just a handpicked vice president of Chavez. And before he got into politics, he was a bus driver. He was a bus driver and a big mouth.
Really?
Yeah, for the unions.
Okay.
That's what he did. And then he got into politics. Chavez picked him as a successor. So when Chavez died, he was never elected into power from the get-go. They were going to do elections after that, and those were fraudulent. Fraud. They were fraud. And every election after that was always a fraud. So it's sad because people had no option, they had no control. Really, a lot of things started happening that started eroding, and so it was really, really bad with Chavez, and when Maduro got there, it got even worse, and it was an exponential downhill spiral that it was just terrible.
And did that impact some of those beautiful areas even, do you think? Or like the beauty of the culture and the geography, or was that able to be
The geography is the same.
Okay.
What really is taking a hit was the fact that the infrastructure got ruined. And because like the economy was mostly based on the oil, and now the government is running the oil industry, and they kicked out any foreign investors and companies, including the U.S., and said, hey, we own this now. Everybody's kicked away. So, but then it's not handled based on merit. Now it's handled based on who they favor and who supported them. And so with that, you get people that don't know what they're doing. And so before long, everything, you don't have expertise anymore. The maintenance that's supposed to happen is not happening. The brains of the operation, people that had been studied and trained, they started to leave the country, max exodus of people. And so now the actual oil, excuse me, started to take a hit. Now, what the Colombia with the FARC and the drugs and all the stuff that's happening over there, that's moving into Venezuela, and they're getting involved. So they're supporting the government through drug money. And corruption or levels we just can't even imagine. I mean, we can't. And so that's with the economy. As after that, you start having issues with money leaving out of the country, and so they were in positions of price fixing minimum prices for things, which created even more problems. There were issues on trying to fix exchange control, which created parallel black market dollars, and that created even a more outflux of money. So every time they try to do, it's almost like the cartoon of like the boat sinking, and everybody tried to like cover one hole, and then the water coming in, and you kept pass one and then the other. It was sinking, and it was sinking rapidly. And so because the economy now, all the systems, healthcare is ruined. I mean, people now have to go, if they're going to have a surgery, you have to buy all your medical supplies so you can go have a procedure done, because the hospital they don't have syringers or tube lines. They don't have anything. They don't have any medicine to give you. So you have to bring all that stuff to the doctor to perform a surgery. And so, I mean, I'm talking about running water,
I can get my head around
electricity,
Yeah.
and so too. Then in terms of supply of all the goods, food, again, medicine, everything, because the economy is hurting so badly, and then bringing anything from the outside is an issue. So there's scarcity of all the basics. People standing in line for hours to go get 1 pound of rice. And then they have to go to another store to get oil. And by the way, now the oil, you thought it was going to be the equivalent of, say $4. It went up in price, and it's $8 now. And so because you run into hyperinflation, so inflation, excuse me, hyperinflation. So yeah, what the natural beauty is still there, but all the systems, education, like I said, law enforcement, medical, everything is just basically not there.
And all of this happened after you were off the
Right.
field as
Yeah,
well.
we
right,
were
Pat?
there in the really good years.
Yeah.
Because when we got there, there were like 3 bolivares, which is their money, to the dollar.
Okay.
And now it's like, I don't know, millions. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It may not even be worth anything, the bolivar.
We talked about this, and at one point inflation was 500%, and then back in 2017, the worst it got to was 1,000,000%. I mean, it's almost unfathomable. The number doesn't make any sense. What do you mean 1,000,000% inflation?
And they were using money like to patch things, because it was worthless.
Oh, wow.
But here's an idea that would make sense to people. So when I was in, say, 3rd grade, I remember what a can of tuna cost. And the money that that would cost, and I remember how much a car cost, and so now it's like the money that I would used to be able to buy a car, now it wouldn't buy me a can of tuna.
See, I can't even get my head around that for
So-
real.
so-
That is insane.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all the ability for people to save money, to borrow money, to invest, any of those things, it's just like none of those financial systems work. So it's
So
yeah.
as you talk to family, as you talk to friends, what's the morale like with this? This sounds like about a 15-year, 16-year decline. What's it like there now?
It's terrible. I would compare it to that of a woman in an abusive situation with an abusive spouse. It's kind of like what happened in Cuba, where people are to a point of just acceptance, but afraid to talk or do or say anything, because sadly, many people that would protest will end up thrown in jail or killed. And this happened. It's these atrocities that we've been watching, especially since Maduro came in. I'm talking about 2015, all the way from there. There was some major rallies and people trying to do things back in 17. In 18, there was a big awareness concert in Colombia, and people trying to get support and get food and medication. And at the end of that rally and that concert that happened in Colombia, there were some trucks, I'm talking 18-wheelers, filled with medicine and food. And the second they crossed the border into Venezuela, Maduro ordered the military people to set them on fire in front of everybody.
I do remember that.
And they were
story.
literally set on fire. That day I watched that. I mean, it gave me a 6-month headache after I watched that. It bothered me that much.
Well, that would just be so painful.
Well, yes, because you got kids that are literally starving and people that need the diabetic medication and they're dying and they need to get, the people that need to have dialysis and they can't have it. And the stuff they need is right there and they're watching it burn.
Yeah. Well, I really think of it as a bigger Cuba. It's really become like Cuba, where there's really nothing available and the government controls everything. Every block has their informant, so that's how they find out who may not be with the government. And then so many Cuban people came in to be teachers, doctors, and so they're all sort of incorporated into the Venezuelan population.
Yeah. Even military.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Because that's who some that were
some of the people
killed.
that were killed on this raid were Cuban. That was who he had a special forces as protecting him. So yeah.
You're listening to Angel Torres and Dr. Pat Terry, both with Venezuela connections. Angel was born and grew up there, came to Birmingham in 1999, and Pat served 12 years on the mission field there in Venezuela. I'm Jennifer Rash with Tab Media Group, and we're just trying to give some context about what it's like for the people in Venezuela. Who are they? What's life like right now? Angel, when was the last time you visited?
The last time I was in Venezuela was in 2011.
2000. Okay, so you haven't been back with the
No.
worst of
No, I
all
haven't
that's
been
been
back for
happening.
the
No, you
worst,
can't because he's a male
Right.
Venezuelan. Do you still have your Venezuelan passport?
Well, here's the issue with the passport. Maduro has made it a point to oust anyone out of his country, like any diplomat that opposes his ideals.
Okay.
That right now includes at least Argentina and the United States. I can't remember what other countries, but there are many countries that have raised and spoken against him not being legitimate and so on. So he basically had cut ties with them. So right now there's not a U.S. embassy in Venezuela.
Okay.
There's not a Venezuelan embassy in the U.S. That's, again, holds true for Argentina and many other countries. And so I couldn't get my Venezuelan passport expired a while back. I couldn't get that passport renewed.
All right.
And so I couldn't travel with an expired passport. If I were to attempt to use my U.S. passport to travel over there, the second I get there, they could just say, you're a traitor because you became a U.S. citizen,
Really?
and they could try to use any excuse. They could say, "Hey, how about you give me $1,000?" I mean, these people on uniform.
Okay.
And if I say, "No, you're crazy. I'm not going to give you $1,000," they'll find a way. It's like, wait, but you have what? What do you? I found some drug in your bag. Where did that drug come from? And then they throw me in jail
Oh, wow.
for no reason. I mean, that is the environment right now.
Wow,
So it's extremely dangerous to be there. That's why I haven't traveled. So,
And I noticed
yeah.
the State Department has an alert out right now saying, urging Americans not to travel.
Yes, it's not safe.
It's not safe, and we don't have missionaries there right now, right?
And even the last time we were there, Bob had already been to Venezuela before. I met him because they had a celebration, an anniversary of the convention, the Venezuelan convention.
Wow.
So he had been there, and then he went back. We went back together, and we were advised, even though I spoke Spanish, that we needed to be with a Venezuelan or with a missionary
Really?
while we were there, and not to be on our own.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And what's happening with the Baptist Convention of Venezuela right now, and or the believers that are
I can speak for the church and the direct connections I have with the believers in the church, the pastors that I know, that I'm still in touch with. Again, I haven't been back to Venezuela since 2011. The last time I was there, I was able to bring a mission team, because I did that ever since I moved to the U.S. Once or twice a year, I will go back with the mission team from here. And the last time I was able to do that, I remember we had a medical team, and we had teams doing water filtration systems and so on, and helping the local churches in the city of Maracaibo, where I grew up. So we are very much still in contact with the pastors there, and had a meeting on Zoom with 3 of those pastors a couple of days ago. So there's a lot of uncertainty about what's next, because Maduro was captured, but there's a lot more like Maduro that are still running the country, and there's uncertainty about what's going to happen next. The government continues to try to intimidate the general population, and while people on Sunday, all the streets of all the major cities in Spain, Colombia, all over South Central America, here in the U.S., were in the streets dancing, celebrating, waving the Venezuelan flag. The people in Venezuela were not able to do that. They were shelter in place,
really
scared for their lives, because they're like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. But now they have passed decrees and laws saying that if they catch people celebrating Maduro being captured in support of what happened, that they can get thrown in jail, and that military can stop people randomly, and it will just take their phones away and look through their phones, and if they find anything in there that's in support of the U.S. or whatever, they will be deemed traitors and thrown in jail. So everybody is very scared right now, and they're not able to celebrate. Of course, 80% of the people are against the current system, the current regime, and they proved that in 2024 when they had elections that were documented and that were proof that people wanted a change, but Maduro refused to accept that. So basically, even though he lost, he stayed, and we have that is that's like a hardcore fact. Like they have that in many countries in South Central America and Europe recognize that.
And they have the ballots stored in Panama.
Yeah, well, they
actual ballots that proved that
they were doing backup
lost.
of that, all the documentation. There was backup as he went out throughout the day. They were doing elections, so they have that. Even though they have all those things, again, the government's still in charge over there, and so they're. On Sunday, most churches canceled their worship services. They didn't take place. The pastors I talked to, they were going to have a conference this week, and that got canceled. But they are seeing they're still seeing growth. The biggest challenge has been the max exodus of people, where about 8 million people out of roughly 30 million over the last 15 years have left the country. And so that is that's almost a third, basically, rounding up numbers here. But what we were talking with the pastors was like, the challenge was Now I don't have anybody to lead worship. I don't have anybody to preach or do the teach the Sunday school. What do we do? And those people are in Colombia, all in Chile, in Argentina, and so they're having to train new people to do things. So in an essence, it has caused growth.
That's so interesting to
and
think
the
how
churches-
God can still work in that.
Yes, I mean the church we're talking to, they're multiplying. So anyway,
Yes.
it's we definitely need to pray for them.
Okay, let's wrap it up with that. What are a couple of ways that we can be praying?
Yeah, I think from what I've heard, there are over 700 churches already and over 200 that are forming.
Okay.
So God is definitely at work, and that's what we hear from our friends. Also, the camp that we have in Venezuela is being used to grow food and all of those kinds of things. The women's union is also very active, and so it's just really exciting to think that God is working, the Holy Spirit is working through all of these hard times.
Yeah, it's very difficult to watch injustices take place like that in a country, and everything that's so beautiful to get eroded. I would say that part of it, Venezuela brought upon themselves, and I mean, I'm talking about the spiritual realm of things, because it's a lot bigger than the physical and what we see, but the idolatry. And Venezuela has a mountain called Maria Leonza that was dedicated, Mountain of Maria Leonza, dedicated to three big gods, like lowercase g, and those involvement in witchcraft and idolatry. And so I think that's part of what caused. But two, again, watching that, I remember in 2017, this guy gave me this scripture on July 5th, which is Independence Day, July 5th of 17. So I was praying for Venezuela and just being very frustrated and just feeling like you can't do anything, but we can pray. And God gave me the scriptures on Psalm 10, verse 15 says, "Break the arm of the wicked and evildoer, call his wickedness to account until you find known. The Lord is king forever. The nations perish from his land. O Lord, you hear the desire of the afflicted. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to the justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, so that the man of earth may strike terror no more." And so I was like, okay, thank you, God, because this is a prayer that and I started praying, and I was reminded of this prayer on Saturday morning, being very excited, celebrating what happened. At the very, very least, being able to celebrate somebody, an evildoer, being held to account, but that's just the beginning. And if anything, it's giving people hope about a change, especially people that just have no option to do anything. So we need to pray for the most peaceful, least amount of bloodshed take place in Venezuela, and the faster that it's going to take a while for things to get better. They may get worse before it gets better. So we definitely need to pray for the people there. I have relatives there, and again, I have many church friends and pastors, and so down there that we're praying for. We're staying in touch with them. And while we can do anything specific that I can think of it, but we can definitely pray. So that is what I would call and encourage people to do, is just pray for safety, for courage, and for God's name to be glorified through this trial in the light of his sovereignty or whatever his plan is. Because the scripture says that if his people will humble themselves, and come before him, then that is what we're seeing here. So, yeah.
That is so good. Wow, to watch God work in the midst of such chaos and tragedy and all that's happening. What was that scripture again? Psalm?
This is Psalm 10, and I read verse 15 through the end.
Okay,
Yeah.
Psalm 10. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Thank you both for sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.